Numbers don't lie. That's what I kept telling myself as I stared at my laptop screen, watching our joint account balance mock me with its glaring discrepancy. $50,000. Gone. Just like that, without a trace or explanation. I'm Layla, and until this moment, I thought I knew everything about my husband, Ethan. 12 years of marriage had taught me his habits, his tells, the way his left eye twitches when he's nervous. But nothing had prepared me for this. Hey, everything okay? Marcus poked his head into my office, his familiar concerned expression making me quickly minimize the banking window. You missed the morning briefing. Did I? My voice cracked. I cleared my throat, trying to maintain composure. Sorry, I got caught up in some calculations. Marcus stepped inside, closing the door behind him. Layla, you've been staring at your screen for the past hour. I can see your reflection in the window. I forced a smile, but my hands were shaking as I reached for my coffee mug. It's nothing, just some personal stuff. Personal stuff doesn't usually make you miss presenting the quarterly projections to the board. He leaned against my desk, his presence both comforting and intrusive. Want to talk about it? The mug trembled in my grip. Ethan's been different lately, distant, and now I'm looking at our accounts and I stopped myself, shame burning my cheeks. I shouldn't be discussing this at work. Different how? Late nights, mysterious phone calls. Last week he claimed he was visiting his sister in Phoenix, but when I called her, I set the mug down before I could spill it. She hadn't seen him in months. Marcus's expression darkened. Have you confronted him? He's got an explanation for everything. Always does. I pulled up the banking window again, pointing to the transaction history. But numbers don't lie, right? $50,000, transferred to an account I've never seen before. Jesus, Marcus whispered, leaning closer to examine the screen. When did this happen? 3 days ago, while I was at that conference in Boston. My phone buzzed on the desk, Ethan's face lighting up the screen. I let it ring. You should answer it, Marcus suggested, but I could hear the hesitation in his voice. I shook my head. Not until I figure out what I'm dealing with. I need to be smart about this. The phone stopped buzzing, only to start again immediately. This time, a text message appeared. Need to talk. Important. Please call me back. E. Whatever you decide to do, Marcus straightened up, heading for the door. Just remember you've got people in your corner. After he left, I sat there staring at Ethan's message, my mind racing through possibilities, each worse than the last. The pharmaceutical company where I worked had strict policies about personal matters affecting professional performance. I couldn't let this situation spiral out of control. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Ethan. Found us an amazing investment opportunity. We'll explain everything tonight. Love you. Investment opportunity. The words hit me like a slap. I remembered the last time he'd used that phrase. 3 years ago when he convinced his parents to refinance their house for a sure thing that ended up costing them their retirement savings. He'd sworn it wasn't his fault, that he'd been misled too. I'd believed him then. I opened my drawer and pulled out the business card Dr. Simmons had given me last month during Ethan's physical. Call me if you need to talk, she'd said, with an odd emphasis I hadn't understood at the time. Maybe she'd seen something I'd missed. The office suddenly felt too small, too confining. I gathered my things, told my assistant I was taking a personal day, and headed for the elevator. As the doors closed, I caught a glimpse of Marcus watching me from his office, his expression unreadable. I had no idea then that this was just the beginning, that the missing money would be the least of my concerns. But something inside me had shifted, like a switch being flipped. The trust I'd built my marriage on was crumbling, and in its place, something darker was taking root. The drive to Dr. Simmons's office felt like navigating through quicksand. Every red light stretched into eternity, every turn bringing me closer to answers I wasn't sure I wanted. The business card sat heavy in my pocket, its edges worn from my constant fidgeting. Dr. Simmons's receptionist recognized me immediately. Mrs. Harrison, Doctors between patients. She said to send you right in when you arrived. The examination room smelled of antiseptic and secrets. Dr. Simmons stood by her desk, already waiting. I wondered when you'd call, she said, gesturing to a chair. How much do you know? About what? My voice sounded hollow, even to me. She pulled out a file, hesitating before opening it. During Ethan's last visit, I noticed some inconsistencies in his medical history. Previous conditions that didn't match his records. What kind of inconsistencies? The kind that make me wonder if the Ethan Harrison in my office was the same Ethan Harrison from his previous medical records. She paused, studying my face. Have you ever verified his background? My phone buzzed. Another text from Ethan. Where are you? We need to talk about the investment. Time sensitive. Dr. Simmons noticed my hands shaking. Layla, there's something else. The prescription he requested last month. The office door opened. A nurse poked her head in. Doctor, your next patient is here. Give me 5 minutes, Dr. Simmons replied, then turned back to me. Listen carefully. Don't confront him yet. Get copies of all your financial documents first. And Layla, check the name Richard Thorne. Back at work, I couldn't focus. Marcus stopped by twice, but I barely registered his concerned looks. My computer screen blurred as I typed Richard Thorne into various search engines. Nothing significant appeared until I added fraud to the search. A newspaper article from 6 years ago showed a grainy photo of a man being led away by police. The image quality was poor, but something about the slope of his shoulders, the way he held his head. My office phone rang, startling me. Layla speaking. Hey, it's Sophie. Your sister's been trying to reach you. Something about Ethan showing up at her place. My blood ran cold. What? Lily said he was asking weird questions about your family's assets, claiming he needed the information for some kind of surprise for you. She felt uncomfortable. When was this? Yesterday afternoon. She tried calling you, but... I hung up, already dialing Lily's number. It went straight to voicemail. A knock at my door made me jump. Marcus entered, closing the door behind him. Board meeting in 10 minutes, but first, you need to see this. He placed a document on my desk, a copy of an email chain. This came through the company's compliance department. Someone's been accessing our confidential research data using your login credentials. That's impossible. The access points trace back to your home IP address. Late night hours when you're usually asleep. The pieces started falling into place. Ethan's late nights at home, his sudden interest in my work computer, the missing money. My stomach churned. I've delayed reporting this, Marcus continued, his voice low. But if there's something going on, I need to get home. I stood up, gathering my things. Tell them I'm sick. Layla, wait. Marcus caught my arm. Let me help. Whatever's happening. You can't. I pulled away, but his grip tightened slightly. At least let me drive you. You're shaking. In the parking lot, my car wouldn't start. The engine made a sickening grinding noise before falling silent. Marcus insisted on checking under the hood and found several cables deliberately disconnected. My phone buzzed again. Ethan, coming home early. Big news about our future. Everything's falling into place. I showed Marcus the message. His jaw tightened. You're not going back there alone. I have to. If he suspects I know anything. I trailed off, remembering Dr. Simmons' warning. Then we need a plan. Marcus pulled out his phone. I know someone in corporate security. Give me an hour. As we sat in his car, plotting my next move, I caught my reflection in the side mirror. The woman staring back at me looked different somehow. Harder, more determined. The trust I'd lost wasn't just about money anymore. It was about survival. The garage door was open when Marcus dropped me off. My car, the one that wouldn't start earlier, sat in the driveway, pristine and seemingly untouched. Ethan leaned against it, phone in hand, wearing that disarming smile that used to make my heart skip. There you are, he called out. You wouldn't believe the day I've had. The investment's locked in. We're looking at triple returns within 6 months. I felt Marcus's car idling behind me, his presence a silent guardian. The car's working now. Had Tom take a look at it. Simple fix. Ethan gestured toward our neighbor's house. You worry too much, honey. Tom appeared in his driveway, giving me an awkward wave. Something in his expression made me uneasy. Weird coincidence, he said, not quite meeting my eyes. Those cables must have come loose on their own. Marcus's car finally pulled away. The sound felt like abandonment. Inside, Ethan moved with unusual energy, pulling papers from his briefcase. Look at these projections. The returns are guaranteed. We just need to move quickly. Maybe liquidate some of your pharmaceutical stocks. My phone buzzed. A text from Lily. Call me now, emergency. I need to use the bathroom, I said, already moving toward the stairs. Ethan's hand caught my wrist. This can't wait, Layla. The opportunity expires tonight. I pulled away, forcing a smile. 5 minutes. In the bathroom, I called Lily. She answered on the first ring. He knows, she whispered. About Dr. Simmons, about everything. He was here again, asking about your trust fund. When I wouldn't tell him, Her voice cracked. The things he said about you, about our family. Are you safe? Sophie's picking me up. But Layla, there's more. I found something when he was here. A phone. Not his regular one. There were messages about... The line went dead. My hand shook as I tried calling back. Nothing. Downstairs, Ethan's voice carried up the stairs. He was on the phone. Yes, everything's proceeding as planned. She suspects nothing. No, that won't be a problem much longer. I crept closer to the stairs, straining to hear. The sister's becoming an issue. Yes, I understand. It'll be handled. No, Richard Thorne doesn't exist anymore. I made sure of that. My foot hit a creaky floorboard. The conversation stopped abruptly. Layla? Ethan called out. You've been up there a while. Everything okay? I flushed the toilet, buying time. When I came downstairs, he had a glass of wine waiting. Your favorite, he said, holding it out. I remembered Dr. Simmons's words about his prescription requests. Actually, I'm not feeling well. Maybe we should discuss this tomorrow. His smile tightened. The opportunity expires tonight, remember. Just take a sip, relax, and let me handle everything. The doorbell rang. Through the glass panels, I saw Marcus. What's he doing here? Ethan's voice had an edge I'd never heard before. Probably about the board meeting I missed. I moved toward the door, but Ethan blocked my path. You've been spending a lot of time with your manager lately. It's work-related, like those late-night emails from the company server. His mask slipped for a moment, revealing something cold beneath. You should be more careful with your passwords, honey. The doorbell rang again. 3 sharp, urgent rings. Don't answer it. Ethan's command was soft but absolute. My phone buzzed again, a text from Sophie. Lily's safe. Police involved. Get out now. Move, I said, surprising myself with the steel in my voice. Or what? He stepped closer, his familiar cologne now suffocating. You'll tell them about Richard Thorne? About the missing money? Who do you think they'll believe? The loving husband worried about his unstable wife, or the woman making wild accusations? The wine glass in his hand trembled slightly. For the first time, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. He wasn't sure how much I knew. The front door crashed open. Marcus stood there with 2 police officers, Tom right behind them, clutching what looked like security camera footage. I'm sorry, Tom said, looking at Ethan. I couldn't do it anymore. Not after what you asked me to do to her car. The wine glass shattered on the floor, dark red spreading like blood across our pristine white tiles. In that moment, watching Ethan's carefully constructed world begin to crumble, I felt something shift inside me. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This was about justice. The police interview room felt smaller with each passing hour. Detective Chen pushed another cup of coffee across the table while I replayed the security footage Tom had provided. On the screen, Ethan methodically disconnected my car's cables. His movements precise, practiced, not the clumsy work of an amateur. "Mrs. Harrison," Detective Chen said, "we found something interesting in your neighbor's garage. Want to tell me about these?" She slid photographs across the table. Surveillance equipment, far more sophisticated than anything Tom could afford. Next to them, printouts of my daily schedule, annotated in Ethan's familiar handwriting. "I've never seen these." "Your neighbor claims Ethan paid him to install them 3 months ago, right around the time your company started clinical trials on the new cancer drug." My coffee turned bitter in my mouth. The timing wasn't a coincidence. "There's more." She produced a laptop. "Your sister's phone was recovered. The contents are concerning." The video played. Ethan in Lily's living room, his charm turned predatory. "Your sister's always been the smart one, hasn't she? Figuring things out too quickly. But accidents happen, Lily, especially to people who ask too many questions." My hands clenched until my nails cut into my palms. "I want to press charges. That's the thing." Detective Chen closed the laptop. "We can't find him. His fingerprints match 3 different identities in our database. Richard Thorne is just one of them." A knock interrupted us. Marcus stood in the doorway, looking exhausted. "They found something at the office." In the elevator up to our floor, Marcus kept glancing at me. "You should prepare yourself," he said finally. My office door hung open. Inside, forensics teams photographed my decimated workspace. My computer was gutted, hard drive missing, but worse were the walls, covered in photographs. Me sleeping, shopping, meeting Dr. Simmons, having lunch with Marcus. "He's been watching me for months," I whispered. "Not just you." Marcus pointed to a stack of papers on my desk. These were hidden in his cloud storage. "He's been selling company research to competitors, using your login credentials." The room spun. "The clinical trials. Compromised. The board's meeting now to discuss damage control." My phone buzzed. An unknown number. The text contained only an image. Lily's house, current timestamp, lights on inside. "He's there," I said, showing Marcus. "He's at my sister's house right now." "Police are on their way," Detective Chen called from the doorway. "Don't!" But I was already running, Marcus close behind. In the parking garage, he grabbed my arm. "You can't go alone. He's my husband. My responsibility." "Was your husband," Marcus corrected. "And he's not working alone. Think about the resources needed for this level of surveillance. Someone's backing him." Another text arrived, a video of Lily entering her house, unaware she was being filmed. Below it, words that made my blood freeze. "Should have taken the wine, honey." Marcus's keys jangled between us. "I'm driving." The 15-minute drive to Lily's house felt endless. Marcus broke every speed limit while I tried calling her. No answer. "There's something you should know," Marcus said, turning onto her street. "The board meeting today, it wasn't just about the trials. Someone's been accessing restricted files about our pharmaceutical patents. Files only accessible from your home network." Understanding hit like a physical blow. The investment opportunity he kept pushing was never about money. It was about access. We turned the corner to Lily's house. Every light blazed, but her car was missing. In the driveway stood Sophie, frantically waving us down. "She's not here," Sophie called out as we approached, "but he left this." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a single photograph, Ethan and me on our wedding day. On the back, in his handwriting, "You really should learn to trust your husband, Layla. Now everyone pays the price." My phone buzzed one final time. A video. Lily tied to a chair, terror in her eyes. Behind her, Ethan's voice. "Ready to discuss those patents now, honey?" The screen went black, leaving only my reflection, a woman I barely recognized anymore. The time for playing victim was over. Ethan wanted to see how far I'd go to protect what's mine. He was about to find out. "Call Detective Chen," I told Marcus, already heading back to the car. "Tell her to meet us at the office. I know where he's taking her." The abandoned research facility loomed before us, its darkened windows reflecting the last rays of sunset. Marcus killed the engine, but I was already moving, Dr. Simmons's voicemail replaying in my head. Layla, I found his original medical records. The man you married, he's done this before. 3 times. The wives all disappeared. Security cameras tracked our approach. Good, let him see me coming. You realize this is exactly what he wants, Marcus said, matching my stride. He's counting on you being emotional, making mistakes. He has my sister, and a team of corporate spies backing him. The police are 15 minutes out. We should wait. You don't have to come. His hand caught my arm. That's not what I meant. The key card I'd stolen from Ethan's desk months ago still worked. The door clicked open, releasing stale air and memories. This was where we'd first met, where he'd charmed his way into my life with that perfect smile and carefully crafted backstory. Inside, emergency lights cast sickly shadows. Our footsteps echoed through empty corridors until a familiar voice cut through the darkness. Did you really think I wouldn't recognize my own wife's perfume? Ethan's voice came through the PA system, distorted but unmistakable. 3rd floor, honey, just like our first date, remember? Marcus reached for his phone. I stopped him. No signal, he's jamming it. Layla. The concern in his voice made me pause. What aren't you telling me? Before I could answer, a scream pierced the silence. Lily. We ran toward the stairs, but the sound of a door slamming stopped us. Through the window, I caught glimpse of movement in the parking lot. He's playing us, Marcus realized. Splitting us up. Another scream, closer this time. Marcus hesitated, torn between following me and checking the parking lot. Go, I said. I know where he's keeping her. The 3rd floor laboratory still smelled of chemicals and broken dreams. This was where our company's failed cancer drug had been developed, where millions had been lost, where Ethan had first accessed our research. Lily sat tied to a chair in the center of the room, duct tape across her mouth. Behind her, screens displayed security footage of the building, including Marcus heading toward the parking lot. The famous big sister coming to the rescue. Ethan emerged from the shadows, holding something that made my blood freeze. My old research notebook. You know what I found interesting about your early trials? The unreported side effects, the deaths you covered up. Let her go. This is between us. Is it? He flipped through the notebook. Your sister was so helpful, telling me where you kept your backup data. All those years of falsified research hidden away in a safety deposit box. Imagine the board's reaction when this leaks. Lily's muffled protest drew my attention. Her eyes weren't showing fear anymore. They were trying to tell me something. You're not the only one who can play detective, honey. Ethan's smile turned cruel. Did you really think Marcus was helping you out of the goodness of his heart? Ask him about Project Eclipse. Ask him who really authorized those failed trials. Movement behind Ethan caught my eye. A reflection in the darkened windows. Marcus, gun raised. You destroyed everything I built, I said, keeping Ethan's attention. My marriage, my career, my family. No, sweetheart, you did that yourself. I just exposed the truth about who you really are. He moved closer, notebook extended like a peace offering. But we can still fix this. Together. Just like before. The gunshot shattered the silence. But Ethan didn't fall. Instead, Marcus crashed through the door, blood spreading across his shirt. Sorry, honey. Ethan's smile never wavered. Didn't I mention? Your friend Tom's been very cooperative since we found those tax fraud records. Lily's chair toppled as she fought against her restraints. Marcus lay motionless, and something inside me, something I'd kept caged since discovering that first missing payment, finally broke free. I lunged for the notebook, but Ethan was faster. As we grappled, his phone clattered to the floor, revealing an open email. Project Eclipse termination authorized. Eliminate all witnesses. The implications hit harder than any physical blow. This wasn't just about stealing research or ruining my life. This was about silencing everyone who knew the truth. and I had just led Marcus right to him. Marcus's blood stained my hands as I pressed against his wound. Behind me, Lily had worked one hand free, but Ethan's attention was fixed on his phone, reading something that made him laugh. You know what's funny? He held up the screen. Your sister just got copied on every illegal trial document you ever signed. The board, the FDA, even those grieving families. They'll all know exactly who covered up those deaths. He's lying, Marcus gasped, his voice barely audible. Layla, the trials weren't your fault. Ethan's smile widened. Tell her, Marcus. Tell her who really ordered those experimental treatments, who falsified the consent forms. The laboratory lights flickered, casting strange shadows across Marcus's paling face. I had to protect the company, he whispered, but I never meant for anyone to die. The truth hit like physical pain. All those patients, all those families seeking answers, and I'd helped hide it. My signature on every document, trusting Marcus, trusting the system. There it is. Ethan circled us slowly. That moment when you realize everyone's been lying to you, even your white knight here. Lily's chair creaked as she worked at her restraints. Through the windows, distant sirens wailed. Too far away, too late. But I'll make you a deal. Ethan set my research notebook on a nearby bench. Give me access to Project Eclipse's complete data, and this stays buried. Your sister keeps her career. Marcus might even survive, and those families never learn the truth. Don't, Marcus coughed, blood staining his lips. Project Eclipse. It's not what you think. Ethan's phone chimed. He glanced at it, his composure cracking slightly. Time's running out, honey. The board's emergency meeting starts in 20 minutes. Once those documents hit their inbox. A crash from the hallway made us all jump. Footsteps approached. Heavy, multiple sets. That'll be my associates, Ethan said. Less understanding than me, I'm afraid. Last chance. My hands were slick with Marcus's blood as I helped him sit up. The access codes, he whispered. Don't. Shut up. Ethan kicked him hard. You've manipulated her enough. The footsteps grew closer. Through the laboratory's glass walls, shadows moved in the corridor. I trusted you, I told Marcus, my voice breaking. All those patients. The real data, he gasped. Safety deposit box. Explains everything. Ethan checked his watch. 10 seconds, Layla. Choose. Lily had worked the duct tape loose enough to speak. He's bluffing, she said. The email he showed you, check the timestamp. I lunged for Ethan's discarded phone, but he was faster. The screen shattered as he smashed it against the floor. Wrong choice. He nodded toward the door as 3 men in tactical gear entered. Take care of them. Make it look like a lab accident. Wait. I stepped forward, hands raised. The backup server. In the basement. I can give you everything. Ethan studied my face, searching for deception. You're lying. Check my keycard access logs. Why do you think I came here? The men looked to Ethan for instructions. In that moment of hesitation, Lily's chair finally toppled. She rolled free, kicking the notebook into a puddle of spilled chemicals. The laboratory erupted into chaos. As Ethan lunged for the notebook, I grabbed for his phone's remains. Marcus slumped against me, his breathing shallow. Kill them all, Ethan ordered, but his voice held a new edge. Desperation. The tactical team raised their weapons. Through the broken phone screen, I saw the email timestamp Lily had noticed. It was dated next week. He's using you, I told them. Project Eclipse isn't what he promised. Shoot them, Ethan screamed. But the men hesitated, looking at each other. In their moment of uncertainty, distant voices echoed through the building. Police, finally arriving. Ethan pulled out a gun. Fine, I'll do it myself. The shot echoed like thunder. Marcus slumped in my arms, no longer breathing. Lily screamed. And something inside me, the last trace of the woman who had once loved this monster, died with Marcus. I looked up at my husband, seeing him clearly for the first time. You want to know about Project Eclipse? Follow me. As I led them toward the basement, Ethan's gun pressed against my back. I realized there was no going back. Whatever happened next would destroy us all. And maybe that was exactly what we deserved. The basement's emergency lights cast everything in blood-red shadows. Ethan's gun pressed between my shoulder blades as we descended, his mercenaries flanking us. Above, police sirens grew louder, but we all knew they'd be too late. "The server room's through here," I said, swiping my keycard. Nothing happened. I tried again. "Stop stalling." Ethan's voice had lost its smooth charm, revealing something rawer beneath. "You really think I didn't disable your access? Then shoot me." I turned to face him. "Because that's the only way you're getting what you want." His laugh echoed off concrete walls. Always so dramatic, like when you threatened to expose the trial deaths. But you didn't, did you? Because deep down, you're just like me. A door slammed somewhere above us. The mercenaries exchanged glances. "Sir," one said, "we need to move." Ethan pulled out his phone, showing me the screen. A video feed of the upstairs lab. Lily still there, now with a guard standing over her. "Last chance, honey. The real Project Eclipse data, or your sister joins Marcus." I took a step closer, close enough to smell his cologne, the same scent I'd once found so intoxicating. "You want to know the truth about Project Eclipse?" His eyes narrowed. "The backup server doesn't exist." I smiled, feeling something cold and final settle in my chest. "But the safety deposit box does. The one Marcus mentioned. I visited it this morning." The first flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. Behind him, one of the mercenaries touched his earpiece, listening to something. "You were so focused on the trial data," I continued. "You never asked why Marcus kept protecting me. Why he really hired me all those years ago." "Sir," the mercenary interrupted, "we've got movement on multiple floors." "Shut up!" Ethan's composure cracked further. "What are you talking about?" Project Eclipse wasn't about the drug trials. It was about identifying corporate spies, like the ones who killed Marcus's wife 5 years ago, the ones you're working for. Understanding dawned in his eyes, followed quickly by fear. "You're lying." "Check your phone again. That video feed of Lily. It's a loop from 20 minutes ago." He glanced down. In that moment, I moved. The gun went off, the shot deafening in the confined space. But I was already rolling, my hand finding the emergency alarm panel Marcus had shown me months ago. The sprinklers activated, but instead of water, chemical foam poured down. The mercenaries' equipment sparked and died. "Clear." Sophie's voice echoed from the stairwell as she led a tactical team in. The real one, the one Marcus had arranged before everything went wrong. Ethan lunged for me, but slipped in the foam. His gun clattered away. "You don't understand," he gasped. "They'll kill me." "Like you killed Marcus? Like you killed those other wives?" He reached for something in his jacket. I didn't hesitate. The syringe I'd palmed from the upstairs lab found his neck, just like he'd planned for me. "What?" His eyes widened as recognition hit. "The trial drug. A dose large enough to show every side effect you helped cover up." I watched him slump against the wall. "Don't worry. You'll live. Long enough to experience everything those patients did." The tactical team secured the mercenaries. Sophie appeared beside me, helping me up. "Lily's safe. The real Project Eclipse data is already with the FBI. And the board meeting? Streaming live. They've seen everything, including Ethan's real identity and his connection to the corporate espionage ring." I looked down at my husband, the man I'd loved, the monster I'd married. He stared back, his handsome features already showing the first signs of the drug's effects. "You were right," I told him softly. "I am just like you. The difference is, I chose justice over revenge." As they led him away, his screams echoing through the basement, I felt no satisfaction. Only a hollow emptiness where love had once lived. Sophie touched my arm. "Marcus left something for you, in case things went wrong." She handed me an envelope. Inside was a single note. Project Eclipse was never about the data. It was about finding someone strong enough to finish what my wife started. Thank you. The sirens grew closer as we climbed the stairs, leaving the basement and its secrets behind. But the echoes of what happened there would haunt us all forever. Some vengeance, I realized, comes not from what we do to others, but from what we force them to face in themselves. The hospital corridor stretched endlessly before me as I approached Ethan's room. Through the observation window, I watched him thrash against his restraints, his once handsome face contorted by the drug's effects, the same effects he'd helped hide from those trial patients. Dr. Simmons stood beside me, reviewing his charts. The symptoms will persist for months, every one of them documented now, impossible to deny. And the others? I asked. His previous wives? 2 have been found alive, in witness protection. She hesitated. The 3rd? I turned away from the window. I don't want to know. The click of heels announced Sophie's arrival. The board just finished reviewing Marcus's complete files. Everything about Project Eclipse, the corporate espionage ring, even records of his wife's murder. He'd documented it all. He knew, I said softly, from the moment Ethan started working there, and he chose you to finish it. Sophie handed me a USB drive. This was in his safety deposit box, along with a letter for you. Through the window, Ethan's eyes found mine. For a moment, I saw a flash of the man I'd loved, or thought I'd loved. Then his face twisted in another spasm of pain. The FBI wants your statement, Sophie continued, about the trial cover-ups. I'll give them everything. I pocketed the drive without looking at it. The patients' families deserve to know the truth. A commotion down the hall drew our attention. Lily appeared, accompanied by 2 federal agents. They found Tom, she said. He's agreed to testify about Ethan's network. I watched my sister, noting how she held herself differently now, stronger, more assured. We all carried scars from this, but maybe they'd made us harder to break. Mrs. Harrison, a nurse approached. He's asking for you. Inside the room, the restraints creaked as Ethan struggled to sit up. Come to enjoy the show? His voice was raspy, barely recognizable. No. I stayed by the door. I came to return something. I placed our wedding ring on his bedside table. He stared at it, then laughed, a horrible broken sound. Still so righteous. But we both know the truth. You enjoyed it, didn't you? Watching me suffer? That makes you just like... No, I cut him off. It makes me nothing like you, because I'm walking away. His laughter stopped. They'll never believe you about the trials. You signed off on them too. Maybe, but unlike you, I can live with the consequences of my choices. As I turned to leave, he called out, I did love you, you know, in my way. I paused at the door. That's the difference between justice and revenge, Ethan. Justice doesn't care if you loved me. Outside, Lily and Sophie waited. Behind them, through the hospital windows, the sun was setting over the city. Marcus's letter burned in my pocket, still unopened. What now? Lily asked. I watched a young couple pass by, their hands intertwined, faces bright with trust and possibility. Once, that had been me, but the woman I was then died in that basement, alongside the lies she'd built her life around. Now, I said, we tell the truth, all of it. My phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Simmons. Found something in Ethan's original medical records. We need to talk. I deleted it without reading further. Some truths could wait. Some secrets deserve to stay buried, at least for now. You're not going to look at the drive, are you? Sophie asked as we walked away. Marcus knew what he was doing, I replied. Whatever's on it, that's tomorrow's battle. The hospital doors slid open, releasing us into the evening air. Somewhere in the city, federal agents were unraveling Ethan's network. Families were finally learning the truth about their loved ones' deaths. And in a quiet cemetery, Marcus's wife's case was being reopened. Justice, I'd learned, wasn't a single act of revenge. It was a chain of consequences, each link forged by our choices, our secrets, our lies. And sometimes the hardest part wasn't achieving it, but living with what it revealed about ourselves. I felt the weight of Marcus's letter, the mystery of the drive, the unread message from Dr. Simmons, tomorrow's battles, tomorrow's truths. For now, this was enough. Walking away, letting the echoes of vengeance fade into something quieter, something that felt almost like peace. Almost,